It's spring. Our 2020 JCW Clubman has just turned 10,225 miles, and it is spring. It also happens to be complete lockdown in most of the United States, and so what does that mean for us? Well, it means that we want to get locked in our cars. We want to get out and drive a little bit. This is a good opportunity for me to actually talk a little bit about this car, and and just kind of go over what I've experienced in driving the car on a daily basis over the last 4+ months, 5 months. Put a lot of miles on it, done a lot of driving, and really got to know it very well. I've had the previous generation JCW Clubman, not generation, I should say, the previous version with 70 some less horsepower, and there's clearly an enormous amount of similarities. In fact, the differences are really just a handful of key differences that we're talking about, but those differences are really, really key to the way this car drives. So what are they? Well, I think for one, we've got an extra 70 some odd horsepower depending on how you measure it. That's a lot. Even for a car that weighs 3,400 pounds, that's a lot. On top of that, we also have a revised suspension. And that's the thing that I think has been a big surprise to a lot of folks. Big surprise to me. When I first got the car on the track and first got it on the Dragon, what was something that I was not expecting, but I immediately felt, there is more feel in this car. There is more, not necessarily eagerness, not necessarily more, grip, but there's a level of transparency around what it is doing and what I am feeling that was not there before. And then the other key difference, in my opinion, are the brakes. I mean, these are 14-inch rotors up front. The brakes in the back are bigger than the brakes in the front of the first generation JCW GP. I mean, this is all told the best braking setup of any mini production car to date, without, of course, the GP, given the fact that it's not out yet. Interestingly, the front brakes are identical to what the GP will have, except these are aluminum. And the reason they're aluminum is because it actually allows for less unsprung weight, which, of course, as you know, is the enemy of many good things, performance, ride quality, etc. So why does a GP have cast iron when the Clubman has aluminum? Well, the thought there is the Clubman, JCW Clubman, as good as it is not going to be really faced with the track duty that the GP will be faced with, and therefore they wanted to get the GP iron brakes up front, steel brakes, not iron, apologize, that's obviously not true. The steel brakes up front, because they're less susceptible to damage from heat. That's, of course, an extreme situation. Most people will never feel that in this car. I suspect that was a very wise trade-off between those two cars. Nevertheless, what you have here is a car that has, in my mind, the best braking setup for the street Mini has ever produced. It has the highest horsepower engine. Now, it has a front biased all-wheel drive system that we know well. This is the same system that's been in this car before, but it's been recalibrated to deal with the extra power. So, do you feel the extra power? Yes, absolutely. This is a car that feels very fast. The suspension copes with it well. The thing that copes with it even better, in my opinion, is the revised 8-speed automatic transmission. So you heard that right, there's no manual, this is an automatic, but it's not that bad. I've got it in sort of standard mode right now. I can flick it into sport. I don't know if you can hear the difference, but there's a distinctly different sound that the car is developing that's magnifying more or less the natural engine notes. Is it fully real? No, it's not. Some of it is, some of it's not. Most of it's not. That's fine. Take that away for a second. What it does do is it goes into a different shifting algorithm, so it's much quicker. And so when I think about what this car is capable of doing versus the DCT that's out in the Cooper S, for instance, this is fast. The shift times are extremely quick. They are not as seamless as the DCT. They are not as perfect in low speed situations. They're not as sort of almost transparent in a way, but they are quick, especially under duress. They are fast, and they sound fantastic. So I'm stuck right down in 5th. I'll go down to 4th and 3rd. And it's a quick shift. There is no doubt in my mind that this is the fastest automatic shifting Mini of all time. They got it right. They did a great job of creating the duality with this transmission that allows it to have both that sort of neck snapping, like, you know, sort of gut punch shift at times. I didn't feel it there because RPMs are too high. But at the same time, it's a completely livable transmission during most circumstances, all circumstances. I mean, this is a very, very livable car in general. I mean, this is a daily driver designed for people who, if they want that JCW to sort of fade in the background and just have a quick car, they can do that. There's no trade-offs here. This is not a rough riding car. I can dial it back down to mid mode, and suddenly the car feels comfortable. You know, feels fantastic actually. Much more so than most Minis before it. So let's go ahead and just give it the business here. This is all manual mode. Sixth gear. You will not believe how quick this car is. Now, it started off pretty slow, and that was on purpose. I didn't want to freak anybody out back there. It was breaking the lawn, but you know, this is a car that does 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, and it's the pace, I'd say, from 30 to 60 or 30 to 80 that is truly impressive. The torque is down low, and of course, you know, not like an electric car, but this is a extraordinarily quick Mini, and for those of you who have been working hard to make 225 horsepower feel fast in your JCW Clubman or Countryman, you don't have to work hard anymore. This is a quick car. It's always quick, no matter what the situation, no matter where you are, what gear. You know, it's a car that is that always has that extra speed ready for you. And of course, with that transmission, especially in manual mode, when you can control it really quickly, you know, you're always 1 or 2 clicks away from finding that sweet sort of torque band and being on your way pretty quick. So it's been 10,000 miles, and we've had about every experience you can have in a car so far. We're about a third of the way through our time with it. And there's been not a lot of surprises. I mean, this is exactly the car that we thought it would be. It's fast, it's capable. It is incredibly fun, given its utility and size. I mean, this is a really fun Mini. Those brakes speak for themselves. Of course, the 306 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. The utility is here, as you'd expect in a Clubman. You know, there's a feel to this car, and there's just a general enjoyment that when I think about the M235i, which has the same drivetrain from BMW, costs anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 more. This is the more fun of the two. There's no question about it. It's also the more interesting for me personally when I look at the car. I think about the front wheel drive chassis and the way it looks compared to the BMW. This just suits it better, the chassis. The Countryman, we just had the JCW Countryman. I know there's a difference in power from the one we had last year to this car, of course, but again, this car has 97% of the utility, more performance, more efficiency, and to me, again, it's also more interesting. I mean, this is not a car you see every day. The Countryman you see all the time. It's great. I love it. Highly recommend it for somebody who's looking for a small crossover, but you know, this is the antithesis of the things we see every single day in our lives. And to me, you know, it's when we have a chance to buy something like this now, do it. It won't be around forever. This is probably the last time Mini will create a Clubman that feels more like a wagon than a crossover. So, you know, for all intents and purposes, this has really been an exceptional 4 months of ownership thus far. 10,000 miles. It's a car that I enjoy driving every single day, and it's been outside of our JCW Roadster from 2011. I would say it's probably the most thoroughly enjoyable Mini I have been in a daily basis. So, pro tip, don't set the camera on part of the bumper that vibrates as the car starts up, because of course those are some pretty healthy pipes, and yeah, it can fall and be run over. That may happen.